The years leading up to and during menopause are a rite of passage. The wise woman inside of us is calling to slow down, to take stock, to speak our truth, to burn away all that no longer serves us, ready for our next cycle of life. The good news is, with the support, community, connection, and most of all, sharing our stories and being truly seen and heard, we will travel through this powerful, sometimes painful, heroine's journey and out the other side. Welcome to the Menopause Podcast, real and raw stories of midlife and mental health. I'm your host, Kylie Patchett, menopause self-care coach and storyteller, and I am so glad you found us. Let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the podcast. I'm very excited today because it is World Menopause Day and I'm speaking to Thea Baker. Hi, Thea. How are you?
I am really good, thanks.
We just both realized it was Menopause Day today, and I'm thinking this is a perfect day to dive in to chat with you because we have had a pre-chat and I made so many notes that I reckon we could do like a whole series with you. So for those of you, the listeners that don't already know you and what you do in the world, can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sure. So I am a practicing psychotherapist and I work I work physically in Melbourne. But I practice mostly with women who have experienced some kind of trauma, and that's a really broad spectrum of women. Yes. I also, in my spare time, of which there is literally none, I'm doing a PhD at the moment, and yes. My PhD was inspired by work that I have done in the physical activity space. So my journey, I guess, in Australia started 13 years ago when we arrived. And at that point in time, I was a stay-at-home mum. So I'd been looking after little people for a few years in the UK. I had a previous career before kids of working in corporate HR. So all the way through my life, it's always been people, just different perspectives.
Yep.
And in that postpartum phase, I lost myself completely.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know who I am. I don't have an identity anymore. I recognize that I'm these little people's mummy, but like beyond that, who even knows? And the way that I found myself was actually face down in the bottom of a swimming pool, not trying to kill myself or anything, swimming. Okay. Just to be very clear, swimming, because I swam freestyle, not backstroke. So I was face down,
so good.
Following this like black line. And I'd swum as a kid, but I just got like, it was just my pathway back to me. And in my move to Australia, I was like, the one thing I'm not going to do is shy away from the fact that, it's Australia and they're amazing swimmers and English people are not good swimmers by comparison. And I committed to joining a swimming club as a way to kind of, find people and,
make connections.
Keep doing the thing that had served me so well for the last maybe year before we moved. Joined a swimming club over here. Turned out I was actually really good at swimming. And all I needed to do was actually train with people who knew what they were doing.
Knew what they were doing?
Yeah. And so then I, competed at states and at nationals, and I swam in the pool and in the ocean. And it was like my happy place. Like it was amazing. And in that kind of first even 6 months of being in Australia, I'd been asked if I wanted to go and compete at the next nationals by my coach, and then promptly broke my foot. So if ever the universe is telling you to slow down, for me, it's always like I have some cataclysmic bodily malfunction.
Me
and
too.
It's like, now you must rest.
Yes.
This is a very long bio, but essentially, I decided working with women in that postpartum phase would be something I could do. Like if in my recovery, so I was doing like dry training because I couldn't swim with a plaster cast on. If I could do this for me, what could I do to help other women? Like just normalize their experience. So in that journey, I observed so many different bodies responding to so many different kinds of trauma, whether it was childbirth as a traumatic birth, but also the kind of compounding effects of what we bring into mothering, relational trauma and all of the things that we could talk about for days, but also then all of the kind of really icky bits like interpersonal violence and childhood sexual abuse, which all really comes out even if we've dealt with it to some extent, it really does come out in that postpartum relationship with our own children.
Mm.
And that started my interest in, okay, so where does physical health and mental health, where does that abut each other? And so my PhD, which has been, I don't know, 7 years in the kind of happening, is around cardio boxing. So nothing to do with swimming at all, but cardio boxing. Yeah, cardio boxing as an intervention for women who have experienced intimate partner violence. Yeah. Wow. So I have this kind of like dual aspect at the moment where I'm doing my PhD and I'm, you know, in this academic space. And then the rest of the time I'm in practice supporting mostly women. I do work with some men. It's not that I only, like if you're a guy, I'm going to say no. But it just, I mean, mostly women come to therapy more than men. And secondly, it's just my jam. And all of the traumas, pretty much all the fun stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's, there's so many places I want to go. I mean, so I want to come back to something that you just said, the compounding effects of what we bring to motherhood. And when I'm hearing you say that, because one of the reasons that I was so interested in talking to you when we were introduced was you had said to me, you work at this kind of junction point of all the taboos in a woman's life. So we're talking about, you know, traumatic childbirth, trauma in earlier life, etc. And I had said to you, I really am interested in how, at least in my experience and the experience of lots of women that I'm connected to, this sort of unhealed or unlooked at or untended trauma really comes to the surface in the menopause transition. And I think probably it is, for me personally, true to say also when I transitioned to motherhood, definitely. Actually, I suspect that is the reason why I didn't fall pregnant for a long time. I feel like my energetic system was not ready to, because I kind of had a sense that it would bring lots of things to the surface. What do you mean by the compounding effects of what we bring to motherhood? Why do these transition points in a woman's life bring it all to the surface?
Oh, it's so true. Even hearing you rephrase that and reflect on your own experience makes me just zoom out a little bit more. And I was just thinking, you know, it probably is at every transition point for women. Like when we start our periods, that's the time. This phase of like what it is to be a mother. I've got a lot of clients at the moment in their 20s, and there's a really interesting space around that phase of life right now and how 20-somethings are trying to navigate the pressures that are on them. Like, and I don't think I had that awareness when I was in my 20s. I think I thought I knew everything. I think I thought I was a fully formed, sorted. Yes,
we didn't have social media
back off us.
Yeah, like social media kind of what's the right word? It's like Pollyannaing what it would be like to be the perfect mother or the perfect this or the perfect that. And there's so many different strong points of view and kind of movements around that. Some of the things I see about mothering on the internet, I'm like, God, I'm so glad this shit wasn't around when I was a mother, because I was putting enough pressure on myself to not worry about all of the. Sorry, I interrupted you, but that
but it's so true. It's you're absolutely right. I think that it's so different now, and I'm like you. I'm glad I did that for sure. That phase where we had, you know, books, but we did not have the internet to kind of help us out on that journey. And then that time of. I when it comes to motherhood, I think that whatever we carry into that, whatever that might be, right? Like relational trauma, probably one of the most significant, because I don't think that there is anything quite so, and I'm going to use triggering in the very literal sense, in a clinical sense, as the experience of being able to provide something for your child that you never received for yourself. And I hear that, I've just had goosebumps saying that, because this is something I get talked to by my clients about often, because they are like, it's staggering our capacity to nurture despite never having experienced that thing. And there's something beautiful about that. There's something healing about that, but there's also something deeply painful.
Deeply.
Because there's a little part of us that lives on, and that is having a full-blown tantrum at the fact that they do not know
Yeah.
what it is to experience this.
Yeah.
How can this other part of us, this mothering part, step in and do this incredible job, and yet there's this deeply wounded, I don't know, mine's a 10-year-old, I don't know how old everyone else's part might be, but like I know mine is
3.5, I reckon.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Like, you know, there's this deeply wounded part that is going, what the heck? Why? Why? How? Like, what? And I think that just makes that hurt more painful and just so present. And so all of a sudden we're in this interaction with our little person. And I think that, you know, when I reflect back on when my children, particularly my daughter, because she was my firstborn and I was my mother's firstborn, and there's so many parallels within all of the things in my life. When my hurty points in my childhood, when it was her turn to be that age, I know that I was not my best self. And reflecting, I can see what was happening in that moment. I didn't know what I know now, which is, you know, both a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, I know, right? The more aware we are, the more we can shine the light of compassion.
Truly,
also wish that it was different.
Yeah.
I am relating so much to so much of what you're saying. I will actually add to that because a lot of my relational trauma is actually with my mother and her inability to mother in the way that, you know, ideally I would have liked and that all children, you know, deserve. And now as an adult, I can see the reasons for that and the fact that she is still stuck in her 5-year-old self and not able to. But there's a deep grief in me every time my kids hit a particular age where traumatic things happened, where I was like, how could you possibly, and I'm going to use my, you know, inverted commas, do that to a 5-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever. Yeah. But there's also, for me, there was another level of grief of watching my mum be a grandmother in a way that she could never mother.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Ooh. I mean, don't they just make the best grandmas? Yeah. It's kind of staggering. Yeah. Yeah. For me, my mum was a career teacher before she retired. And I observed her as the most amazing teacher. Like, even in that moment, I would watch her and go, you have this incredible connection with these people that you teach. Like, who is this human? I don't even know this version of you.
Amazing, hey?
And so, yeah, it's, and again, like when we get to this point, right? Like in this, you know, perimenopausal hangout, we can now have that perspective and observe that I have just unending amounts of compassion for my mum. Right? Like, yes, I mean, the anger and the hurt and all of the tricky bits that have definitely been navigated to a greater or lesser extent. And that's not to say that, like, I just want to put out there, I don't think we're ever done with that. Like, I'm a therapist. I absolutely think that attending therapy is part of my practice as having integrity in the work that I do.
Yes.
And that's not to say that I think we should make a business. Like, obviously I'm in business as a psychotherapist. I'm not saying that it's a money-making thing, that everybody should be in therapy forever, but I think that it's an expectation that life happens. And, you know, we'll be done with a part of our work. I hate that phrase. Like, I'm using inverted commas now. I hate the phrase, but I just can't find a better way of putting it. We can get over a bit of it, and, you know, we've processed enough to a place where we can function really well with what's happening right now. And then life happens and some crazy shit falls out of the sky and another thing happens, and that's when, you know, and so I don't ever think we're at a place where, you know,
it's magically done.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're saying that.
Farting rainbows, and that is just not happening.
Thank you, Thea.
We need to be really realistic, I think, about what it is to come out the other side of that. And
sorry, when you're saying every transition of ours brings things to the surface, is that just because, is it exactly like you're saying, like you just said, you know, when we go into this perimenopausal hangout and there's another kind of, I don't know, perspective, or is it that every transition point we expand our awareness more and more, or does it become more encompassing of all the different ways that women turn up in the world? Because
it's interesting. Yeah, go on. What were you going to say?
Oh no, I'm just thinking, because I feel like I don't know, my calling, I've just been writing website copies, and this is like very present for me at the moment. I really strongly feel like there is a wise woman version of me calling me through all the sticky stuff that I haven't wanted to look at before. I haven't been brave enough, haven't had the tools, haven't had the support, haven't had the whatever, like fill in the blank, have been too busy pushing it down with my coping mechanisms, which then when you hit perimenopause and you can't always just go like the clappers and keep yourself busy. But I feel like there is a wise woman version of me that's saying the most painful bits offer the most transformation, and that's what's been calling me forward. And I've definitely, like the last couple of years, gone through some very trying mental health, places where I've felt very, very discombobulated and really sort of lost my identity. But yeah, I feel like is it just that there's another version of ourselves calling us, like, when we first become mums, are we tapping into a level of wisdom that we haven't had? And then I don't love that either, because I don't think that you have to be a mother to have that wisdom. Like, I don't even know what my question is.
Exactly. No, but that's so true. If I because that assumes that is a phase of life that everyone goes through, and obviously not every woman does go through that, and for either choice or not choice, right? Like that's a whole complicated space. But I think that the one thing that being a woman affords us, I was thinking about your first question, which was like, why do I think that it's at all of these intersections? And I think that the kind of like my first degree was in history, so I'm like this and I think as a historian about psychological issues and like perspective, like that's how my brain works. So I kind of like zoomed straight out and went, kind of the way that society is. Like the reason I think that these things come up is because we don't have a space to talk about these things. It's not just on, like, it's not the menu that we're all served. It's the secret women's business. It's the stuff that has never been spoken about out in the world because patriarchy and all of the things. So I think that being a woman affords us these opportunities of transition that I do believe that, and I can't speak for what it is to be a man because I'm not, and I don't know that, but my observation is that they kind of do puberty and then they do man. And that's not to say that becoming a father isn't really transitional. I'm not denigrating that experience at all, but it doesn't happen to them, their bodies. It doesn't happen in that way. And the way that, our hormones play into this. So estrogen is our caretaking hormone. It is the thing that drives us to do the nurturing. I was so struck by, doom scrolled. I have this, just as a complete aside, I have this app on my phone to stop me accessing Instagram.
I need
rapidly. That. 1 sec. It's called 1 sec. So it causes you to pause, because when you go to open Instagram, it kicks in and it makes you take a breath and it makes you basically go, do you really want to do this?
Do you really want to? What are you looking for here?
Like, and most of the time it stops me and I go, oh, damn it. Yeah, no, that's right. I don't want to do this. But I did cut through the firewall of the 1 sec and I got through. I persevered, and there was and for people that are international, they won't necessarily understand this, but there was a radio interview with an Australian interview with Kate Ritchie, who used to be on some of her, what was that show? Home and Away. That's it. And not Maggie Dent, because that's the chef. Is it Maggie Dent? Whatever not Maggie Beers, Maggie Dent. So yeah, that's right. The parenting one.
Yes.
This is my, I only lived here for 13 years and I don't know all the people yet. She was talking about the mental load, right? And Kate Ritchie was crying. She was actually crying when Maggie was just describing some of the thoughts that happen as women go to bed. Men go to bed and they just go to bed. Women go to bed who have children or who have people that they have to care for. So it's not just children. It could be elderly parents, could be friends. They get into bed, and that's when estrogen reminding mechanism goes, oh, you need to do this, and did they do that, and did that happen? And it's all about everybody else.
Yeah.
And we lie awake thinking about it all.
Yeah.
So we have this like hormonal drive to do that stuff, whether it's children or other people that we're caring for.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can really, and I guess that drives a lot of these transitional phases, right? Like that's what kicks in puberty. That's what kicks out at the other end. And I do think that drives a lot of the whole, no, this is not, I can't be, no, you can all look after yourself a little bit more now. Come along. I'm kind of, the CBF's kicked in and I can't, and I just don't have capacity for it. And actually I'm exhausted. And my 18-year-old said to me the other day, Mummy, you're always tired. And I'm like, yeah, blinking while I am, right? Like I am always tired right now because there's not enough hours in the day. And because of the choices I made earlier in my life, and they were informed choices to be a present, stay-at-home mom.
Yes.
Because I didn't experience that, right? Like, so I was trying to do a different thing because again, the wounded me was trying to provide something that I had not, all of the things. That means I'm doing a PhD when I'm 46, when I really wanted to do it at 26. But I had it in my head that at 26, I needed to be getting pregnant because, again, my mum had me later, and maybe that's why we had the relationship we had, right? Like all of this crazy pressure. Yeah. I don't even know whether that answered a question.
I'm loving where we're going because there's just so many layers of. Many years ago, I did some DeMartini training, and one thing that really stuck in my head was our voids drive our values, and that makes so much sense to me on the mothering and providing what you haven't been provided before. I have almost I have definitely gotten to the stage where when I turned 47, which was last January, so almost 2 years ago, I feel like my estrogen I must have just walked off the side of a cliff with the estrogen. And all of a sudden I was like, I couldn't give two flying Fs what you need or want from me. I don't have anything. I kept on saying, I have no bandwidth. I have no bandwidth. And I literally was like, I didn't realize it at the time, but I really literally did have a very tiny amount of bandwidth. But I think that for me, my void of this is not the way that I want to repeat mothering drove a value of going too far in the opposite direction. So then I over-delivered, over-mothered, over everything. And now looking back, I can see how some of what I did out of, in inverted commas, love and being driven by a void disempowered my daughters in shocking ways that I can see so clearly as a 48, almost 49-year-old, but couldn't see then. But I'm interested when you start talking about like the layers of understanding of what you didn't get and how does that turn up when someone comes to you and they're showing this pattern of, I'm going to use the word grief. That's what feels true for me, that level of like, I love this being with all my heart and soul. And at the same time, I have a very strong grief or strong response in some way. How does that turn up in someone's life though? Because, for a lot of us, when we are parenting, especially young parenting, we've got no time or space to even check in on what the heck is going on internally. It's just that we've got whatever going on at the surface. So what are the surface things that happen?
Yeah, and that's interesting because I think this is where working as a psychotherapist versus, say, working as maybe a counsellor in a short-term capacity, and even as a psychologist. So I very deliberately chose this pathway rather than the psych path when I went back, because of the medical model of health, because of equity and access, which in Australia Medicare is great, but it's 10 sessions and you can do enough all in 10 sessions, particularly with trauma, right? Like, sure, for some other things maybe, but it's a long-term project, I think, for most people, and certainly most people that I work with and the sort of work that I do. And I think that most of the time people come with behavior or an area of their life that is causing them pain, or that they can recognize some level of I was going to say dysfunction, but not quite rightness, because
Yes.
I don't like even the term dysfunction.
Yeah, me too.
Medical and not helpful.
Yeah.
And so they come with this, like, this thing is a problem. This messy ball of yarn is causing me some issues, and it presents like this. So it might present like, I know that I'm drinking too much, or I've got a poor relationship with food, or this person in my life is causing me significant pain. Yeah. When that sometimes is a child, like it might be a later point in their parenting journey, or it's often their intimate partner.
Yeah.
And my first thing is, okay, well, we could treat that thing, right? We could treat the presenting issue, which is what psychology says we have to do. We're assessing it, and we diagnose it, and then based on that diagnosis, based on our assessment, we then go find the treatment plan that's appropriate based on what the DSM-5 says. And I go, well, why? Like, I've trained with Gabor Mate and his team, and his like story of not why the addiction, but why the pain is like seminal for me. It's, why is that pain there that drives us to do the thing, whatever the thing is? It could be, you know, in and out of relationships. I've had more engagements than I've had hot dinners. I've got more wedding dresses in my cupboard than we could shake a stick at. Like, it's like, that is just as dysfunctional and problematic as, you know, I don't know, drinking or drug taking or, you know, chasing money, shopping, like whatever. It's like, we all have that thing. We all have that part of us that shows up when all of the other, and I work with a framework called internal family systems, a type of therapy that, IFS, Richard Schwartz's work around parts of self. And so these what he refers to as firefighters, I believe we all have a firefighter. And for some people that looks like rage. For other people that looks like self-harm. For other people that looks like pervasive suicidality. And then, you
binge
know, all
eating
of
for me.
binge eating, exactly. Or, you know, having this really problematic relationship with our bodies, which is so tricky for so many of us. Which again comes up at all of these intersections of life as a woman, right? Like, it's like the estrogen comes in or out, and body issues also flare up.
Here we are, changing again.
All of those things are there under the surface, and they usually are developed really young, right? Like, they usually have arrived as our backstop. And it's a bit like, you know, we were talking before we started about, you know, what your husband does for work. We all need firefighters in our life, right? Because we need people who are going to keep us safe when everything else fails. So we need them. It's not about getting rid of any of these parts. It's about, you know, getting them to stand down so that they're having a rest in the fire station rather than, you know, out there doing the thing,
creating issues,
creating all sorts of fun for us to deal with. But underneath all of that, we have these managers who are and I see the managers. You know, they're the people that show up in therapy. They're the parts of us that they're the people, the versions of us that I meet first. I'm like, okay, so we're going to build a relationship here, because that's what long-term therapy affords us. It gives us, and I don't mean years and years, I mean just this regular space that's safe with somebody that you can that you can navigate difficulty and learn that nothing bad is going to happen, because that is essentially you know, our job. That I will think the very best of you, irrespective of how you show up, irrespective of what you say. If you're permanently late, if you get cross with me because, I don't know, I've pressed on a thing that just hurts, right? Like, hey, you can show up next week and it's all going to be totally fine, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to repair that. And we learn this relational way of being that we have not experienced somewhere else. Hopefully that's actually the real goal, I think, because if we learn to do it here and it's safe, we can then start to get to what is the underlying wound that has created all of this other stuff.
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, My sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you will get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliePatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. You know, you've actually just put into words so beautifully the difference between the medical model of, yeah, I see you, I slap a diagnosis on you, then blah, 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 versus what you're saying is for you and the work that you do, you're creating a safe space that these people have not necessarily had before.
Yep.
And a safe place by definition means that you can say, be, or do whatever you need to be at the time and know that there's not going to be any repercussions or
that we're not going to, it's not only that there's going to be a reaction by that person, but also that safe place isn't going to be taken away. Yes. Because that's what so many of us learned. If you don't behave right, you are going to your room, or you are now cut from me, and I am not dealing with you. How many of us were parented in that way that is like not even seen and not heard, but the next iteration, which was a bit like, you behave the way that I expect you to behave, or you're not acceptable to me. And that is not what was directly said, but that is what we encoded.
Even looking back at the way that I parented so many times, and I just think, oh, no, that's not what I... But anyway, you don't know until you know.
I'm also me, so yeah.
Just in terms of the IFS, you've used 2 IFS parts descriptions, so managers and firefighters. Can we zoom back out and just give people, and I know IFS is such a
huge,
a big thing to try and describe, but when I learnt IFS around the time that I was really struggling with binge eating, and it really made me so much more compassionate towards the part of me that needed to eat to self-soothe. So can you just give, I don't know, the 2-minute version of IFS?
Yeah.
It's a bit tricky, I know.
Yeah. Sorry, Dick Schwartz. I'm just
I know.
Now. Completely.
Apologies, Richard.
Completely. Yes. So IFS is one of a number of different forms of therapy modalities or approaches to therapy that recognizes that we all have internal hearts.
Yep.
And who would have thought that, back in the day, Jung and Freud, and those people were completely bang on. Our psyche is not one dimensional, which is why it's really normal that, you know, in the one instance, we might notice that we're really excited about one thing, and there's a part of us that is like, woohoo, I can't wait to do this thing. And then there's also an equally loud, if not louder, part that's going, oh my gosh, that's terrifying. Like, you know, doing my PhD tomorrow, I have to present in front of the whole school and defend essentially my research proposal.
Oh, exciting.
I am so excited and also terrified, right?
Yeah,
like, so it's this idea that we have these different parts of self, super normal. Yes. And like, if I could get one message across to people, it's that having that awareness is so life-changing, because we stop judging the fact that we seem to be at 6s and 7s on the inside. Yeah. And, you know, it's not clinically problematic. It's, you know, so many people it's one of the things that really gets me. We use lots of mental health terminology very flippantly these days. Yes. And it's not about having multiple personalities, right? That doesn't even exist as a diagnosis anymore. So these multiple parts of self are really normal. So that's the first thing to say. Yes. And Richard's approach, IFS, is a framework that helps us put language to some of these parts, which I think is just really, I think people connect really well to it. Yeah. And it also comes with this idea that when we've experienced traumatic events or experiences, so that doesn't have to be singular one-off moments, it can be ongoing stuff, parts of us become fractured. It's a term that another clinician called Janina Fisher uses. These fractured parts of self, they get stuck. Yes. So there are parts of us that get stuck in our trauma time, which is why I've got a 10-year-old and you've got a 3-year-old that runs riot inside sometimes, because those parts are stuck there until we can kind of unburden them, as that's Richard's terminology, unburden that wounded part. So often it's our little parts that carry our trauma and our pain. They aren't our trauma, but they carry that burden. Yeah. And so very young, we develop strategies to deal with that, because we're super adaptive little humans, and we create these manager parts. And whether that is like the good girl kind of trope, you know, we're just always going to be on our best behavior, and and, you know, perfectionism can come out like that. Later on, I often refer to managers as the parts of us that we would sell at a job interview. Yeah. So, you know, for me, it was always, I'm just super independent and you can rely on me to do any of the things. And I could just do all the things, right? Like hyper independence is such a trauma response.
It's so, I used to think that was like the part of me that I most valued in my 20s. So and now I look back and go, oh my God, you were just so stuck in the pattern of having to do it all yourself because you couldn't rely on anyone and bloody. Right. And then all the passive aggressiveness that used to come out of me when I resent the fact that I had to do everything for myself. And it's like, but that's
nobody's helping me. Nobody is helping me. That's because I don't actually know what it is to receive help. Exactly. This is a conversation I had with my therapist about 2 weeks ago, and he just was blown away by my responses. And I was just like, good. I'm glad you're enjoying working with me.
Excellent.
So then we have these managers that most of the time do the job great. But they're not our self. That's not
it's not the authentic
self,
part
as
of us.
Richard calls it self with a capital S.
Yes.
Other people might call it adult part, or but essentially it's epitomized within his work as having lots of C words associated with that part. Yep. So compassion for self and others. Yeah. Creativity. Yeah. We're calm. We're connected. We're courageous. We're creative. You know, when we're in those spaces, we know that we're being us. We're being ourself. Yes. Truly. And then, we have, like I said, these firefighters that are the kind of like that's the evidence that the managers have dropped the ball, essentially. So when those are showing up, we know that the managers have lost the plot and they're out. And so, you know, great, firefight. They're my favorite parts, right? They're the parts I get to, you know, work with, because, you know, we have so much disdain for our firefighters, and actually, thank God we have them, because if we didn't, we'd be in a right pickle.
Well, because they let the pressure out of the pressure cooker, right?
Exactly.
I think as you're talking, because I've done a fair bit of IFS work before, I have like really, really clear, because I'm such a visual person, I have really clear pictures of my parts. And my manager part, and this is very likely because my dad was in the army for 26 years, but my manager part is one of those perfectly coiffed around about 1960s Air Force beehive clipboard. Like she has her shit together 24/7. You know, it's one of those like ask a busy person and you know, it'll get done. That's my manager part. But when she gets exhausted or when she hits perimenopause and there ain't no gas in the tank, then what comes out is the firefighter, which is this like just sit down and eat. Like just sit down and eat, and that will soothe you. And that part of me, I know exactly where and when it started, like precisely, because I remember like sitting in front of a freezer as I'm listening to screaming in my household, eating ice cream with a spoon, and that was like my meditative sort of thing. And the way that parts work showed up for me in terms of delivering self-compassion was just, I always had this frame of like, why as an intelligent person can I not figure out how to not eat? Like, you know,
because it's a willpower issue, right?
Yeah,
like
because that's what
so fundamentally wrong with you that you can't sort this out. You must not want it enough, or whatever it is that the story says.
And when parts actually gave me the understanding that this was just a firefighter part of myself that was coming up to avoid the pain of, you know, and any other time when that sort of level of pain or disconnection from, you know, safety, especially safety, that would trigger the eating.
And so, and I always, you know, I'm struck by what an incredibly creative and resourceful version of you that is, right? How incredible that you found a place to go and not hear and feel all of this awfulness, right? Like that just makes me want to cry, because this little you is like, while I'm doing this thing, I can't tune into this other stuff that hurts me. And what an adaptation. Right? What an incredible adaptation. And so much of this is around having this awareness that these adaptations that we make, we made at a time when that's all we had available to us.
Well, nothing else.
We're little people. We've got nothing. So how awesome. Not serving us necessarily now as an adult, but having compassion for being able to go, wow. Right. And that's that bit about having time with someone is not dealing with why you're coming in here because you've got a binge eating issue with ice cream. It's that where does that come from? Let's understand that. And if we can work with that thing, hey, great. Because it means that, you know, you may never binge again, but likely something is going to happen to you that's going to trigger you, because we can't future-proof life.
No, of course not.
I worked with a client last night. She's one of the she's in the UK at the moment, and I've worked with her when she's lived all over the world. And she was one of my very first clients that I ever worked with. And I haven't, we were talking about it yesterday, probably haven't spoken to her for maybe 2 or 3 years. And she reached out to me because she recently got diagnosed with cancer. And she's like, I can't believe I had to reach out to you because we had done so much great stuff. And I'm like, this is reality. This is life. Right. Exactly. And I'm so thrilled that this feels like a safe place for you to come back to, because we just picked up where we left off and it felt like it was yesterday. And we get to do, you know, we don't have to deal with all the stuff because that's all done. But what's happening right now has triggered stuff. Of course it has. It's awful. Yeah, of course. But that's not a failing. That's not about you haven't done a good enough job at therapy. Like that just adds into this, you know, idea that we've got to do everything perfectly. Yeah. I think that the understanding of how smart the adaptations that we have, and I really love. So what you said before was, it's not why the addiction, it's why the pain. That's really, that actually gives me, I feel like I've had one of those chiropractic adjustments of the soul, because that's such a good question. And we can only give ourselves good answers when we ask the right high quality questions. Right question. Right? And that is my thing. Like if there was one thing that underlines everything that I've always done, it's about, I have this insatiable curiosity for asking good questions, like for getting to good questions. Not that I think I'm good at it, but I am always trying to get better at it, because I find it fascinating. Because if you ask a rich question, you get
such
a different answer
so
than
good.
if we could just go, oh, so, you know, how many times do you drink? That's a question, right? Tell me about the last time you drank. What was happening for you?
What was happening?
Totally different kind of response.
Yeah. Can you see a pattern? When you're working with people at this midlife transition and they're coming with the, you know, the surface issues that we've been talking about, what are some of your high quality questions that you like asking? Because it feels like this time of life is a breeding ground of questions like, what the fuck? You know, why did I let that happen? I'm not available, you know, like, what am I really available for? Who do I really want to be? What no longer serves me? Like, what are some of your favorite midlife transition questions?
Some of them are around what would having that answer, what would understanding that mean for you? Right? Like, what is it that you're hoping is going to come? Like, how different do you think life is going to be if you knew the answer to that? Like, because that's about what's the underlying motivation. It's still, again, it's like, for me, it's always about, you come with this thing, but underneath there is a thing. Like, and so what is it that's actually driving that thing? And like, why now? Like, why are you actually here now? Right? Like, and it could be that it's now I have the time and the money to, sure. Right? But also I suspect that there's usually some kind of pain that is so like burdensome that has caused that to be now. Because our time for engaging in choosing to do this, if you've never done therapy before and you rock up, why now? What, like, what is that all about? And it's one of the few times that I use why as a question. Like, why is a really tricky one in a therapy space, because it can be super judgmental. You've got to have it can be received judgmentally. It's not normally meant that way. Right? You have to have a really good relationship with somebody before you can go, yeah, but why? Right? Like, it can be meant with genuine curiosity, but often that's like, it puts us straight away on the defensive, like, well, because I felt like it was the right thing to do at the time. Like, are you saying it's not the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing?
Right? Then you question yourself.
But why now is one of the questions that I'll ask.
I reckon my answer to that would be when I finally, because I've been trying to find the right psychologist for years and never ever found, and now I understand it's more about the approach of psychology than anything else. My answer to that would be that I am not able to distract myself from this pain. The pain is getting bigger than my ability to pretend it's not there.
And what a beautifully rich answer, because then, you know, that could take us down that path of understanding about distractions and how distractions have served you, and why did we need distractions in the first place, and what are we distracting ourselves from, and how does that distraction really, like, what does it feel like when you're distracted? Because
self-abandonment, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. That's what I realized. I actually listened to a Glennon Doyle podcast episode, and I must go back and try and figure this out, but she was interviewing someone, I can't remember what, but one of the questions that she asked was, where are you abandoning yourself? And I was in the car driving to a completely ill-fitting corporate job, tears streaming down my face for probably the 5th day in a row. Like, I just was not coping with the world. And I thought that it was all of this external stuff, like, you know, dementia, parent and teenage kids and all of those things. But when that question was asked, I was like, oh, everywhere. I'm doing a job that doesn't interest me, doesn't serve me, doesn't allow me to deliver my gifts to the world. All the ways that I'm showing up. And that was, that was tough, a tough realization, but also then at least when you've had that realization, then you're at a point of choice because until then I was just going through the motions,
blindly responding. That's and that is such a great question about abandonment, because if we're thinking about those adaptations, usually almost always when we're very young, attachment to our caregivers trumps authenticity. Right, that whole Gabor Mate thing again around if we are not getting our needs met, at no point does a little person go, oh, it must be my caregiver that's the problem. Because that essentially to a young person is so terrifying. It's dangerous. Is such a scary end of the world. Like that's like, you know, before we know that the world is round, that's like edge of the map territory. That's like, I can't even imagine what that's just not a possibility. So what is the alternative? Well, I must be the problem. And so if I'm the problem, then that makes the things that I stand for tricky. So we're just going to constantly self-abandon because actually we have not been taught the other, right? The people that, the few people in my experience that got that secure attachment thing down.
Is there
where are they
in the world?
I don't even know. There's an interesting book called Attached by Amir Levine and another researcher, Dr. Amir Levine and someone else. And it's like the cover says brand new attachment research, first time ever brought to blah, blah. And I'm like, pretty sure we've known about this for a really long time, actually. But I think it's the first time it's been put in a book in the self-help section. And it describes all the different attachment styles in quite a kind of creative way. And people really connect to the first part of the book that's all about, I can see me in that thing.
Yes.
And then it's like, but you buy the self-help book because you're looking for the answer. Like, how do I not have that insecure attachment? And it pretty much, I mean, I'm doing it a massive disservice, but it pretty much says, find a securely attached person and everything will be fine. And that's not quite true. That's like, but actually I'm like, well, where are they? Because there aren't enough to go round.
That's like a game of musical chairs where there's only 4 chairs and 1 billion people.
Exactly. It always makes me laugh. I've had so many like really intelligent people. I've had so many people say to me as clients, they're like, I've read this amazing book. And I'm like, And then when they get to the end, they're like, oh, it really disappointed me at the end. And I'm like, yeah, it's a tricky one. Kind of it infers that we can fix this really easily. And actually attachment wounds are like, they drive everything. Yeah.
I can't even remember where I got that. I think it was a Gabor Mate series or something. Where I finally understood, because I had a lot of anger towards the younger part of me. That's like, why did I choose to caretake instead of standing up for my needs? Why did I blah, blah, blah? I mean, they're ridiculous questions, but I did have a lot of anger towards myself. And when I realized that attachment is not, it's essential, like that's the driver. So you will choose to abandon who you really are and what you really need in favor of attaching, no matter what.
Even if that attachment is really crappy, right? Like even if it's
crumbs instead of what you really
exactly.
It's crazy, isn't it? I think I don't know, it kind of makes me want to go back to the social media thing of the parenting, because I think there is a lot, well, at least in my feed on Instagram, of like attachment theory, and this is how you must perfectly treat your children as a result, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, you know what? All the theory in the world is not going to change human behavior and the way that we operate in these, parts of ourselves when we're under stress. And by definition, parenting little people puts you under stress.
Well, and parenting bigger people, it turns out. Like,
yes.
Who even wants to do that? Like, that's a whole other roller coaster.
I know, it's crazy.
Absolutely. It's so excuse me, pivotal, right? Because if we can't understand that we're all going to F up our kids in some way, right? We are putting ourselves under this insane pressure that it can be done perfectly. And it was this session, excuse me, with in one of our sessions with Gabor's team. The cool thing about training with them is that unlike, oh my goodness, give me a second.
Oh, good. We're getting too excited for ourselves.
There's some throat infection going around one of my kids' schools. So if I get that right now, it's going to be problematic. Anyway.
No, delete that.
Do not put that into the universe. in when we do training for, say, EMDR, so I'm a accredited practitioner with EMDR training, so with EMDR as a modality, so eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, we use it a lot in trauma spaces.
Love.
Yeah, it's so powerful. But when we go and train as clinicians, we take it in turns to practice the thing.
Yep.
And so they tell you in advance of your training that you need to come with memories from your own life. So when it's your turn to be the client, blah, blah, blah.
Be ready to be cracked.
But not too cracked, because you can't bring a memory that's too bad.
Yes.
Right. So in these kind of clinical spaces, it must be no more than a 6 out of 10 in terms of distress. It can't be unhealed attachment trauma. It has to have been something you've talked about before. Like, I'm like, well, what do I bring? Like, I don't even know where to start with that. No. So I found that really difficult, because how do you experience something if you can't bring a meaty topic? Gabor's work is like, this is a whole year's worth of training. Everything comes back to the beginning of everything. So there's no point trying to pick a thing that's not too distressing, because we're going to get to the distressing thing anyway, because that's his whole approach. So if you're signing up for this, you have to sign up for your own therapy outside of the program, blah, blah, blah. So as a result, every week we met, there was always we got to a big thing. So one of us was always the client.
Yeah.
And it was and the rest of us were watching online, like cameras off. So it felt intimate, but also it felt like you were in this session with this person. Yeah. One of my colleagues has older kids, like in their 20s, and she brought a thing about parenting one of her 4 kids, a current issue, and it went back to, the beginning of the things. And then it sparked this whole kind of response after the session. All of us that were parents were like, oh my God, we're all gonna get this wrong. Like, how can we get it right? Like, we've already got it wrong. Like, it created this kind of like panic. And our facilitator was like, okay, everybody just stop a sec. And he said, he was the most beautiful soul. And he just looked at us all through his camera, and he's like, he's got a kid as well. He goes, we are all going to fuck up our kids.
Yeah.
Like, you 100%. Just need to, regardless of how much you know, regardless of what you know, like, you are going to get things wrong. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about creating a space where there is that secure base and safe haven for that kid to come back, and for you to attend to that wound, and for you to talk about it, right? Like that same thing that I was talking about in modeling in a therapeutic space.
Yes.
Rupture is guaranteed. What is not guaranteed is we're taught how to repair. That's the thing that we get to bring to this generation, that I don't think our parents... Well, parenting wasn't even a doing word, right? Like, that was not they were parents. They didn't parent.
Yeah. And I think so, yeah. Each generation kind of, I don't know. I look at both, like my parents, my dad was 55 when I was born. So he was, significantly older. And my mum comes from a family of many traumas, and you just kind of think, well, she actually did a very good job compared to how she was parented.
There we go.
In the scheme of things. So if we can just try, and not to do a better job, I don't like that terminology either, but to be more aware, maybe a little bit. But I also kind of think, I don't know, there's a part of me that still subscribes to the belief that when we're up in the stars and not a human yet, and we choose our skin suit, we also choose the parents and all of the things that we need to deliver
something,
our gift to the world, our place in the world. I don't really know. So, and I also really, really realize, I've got 2 daughters 12 months apart. You could perfectly parent one of them in a single moment, and it would be completely the opposite of what the other one needed anyway. So there is no perfect parent.
No. And to ask one person to be able to do all of that is crackers,
ridiculous.
Right?
Absolutely crackers. Yeah, absolutely crackers. I'm interested when you were talking about, because we were talking a lot about relationships and parenting, etc. One of the things that when we had our kind of pre-chat, you talked about this pattern that you often see of women shedding relationships or friendships or having to refine themselves in friendships. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is that because we become aware of, like, I feel like I have definitely shed a lot of relationships in the last couple of years. And for me, it's because I have been working so much on that codependency caretaking that I'm realizing where I've created relationships all over the place where I am never going to receive what I need as an equal because I've got this over delivery pattern, right? So I'm just like, I'm not available anymore. I just can't do that, and I won't do it to myself. Is that why we shed?
I think that's possibly a part of it, and it's certainly something that you've relayed that it's your experience. I think it's definitely the experience of a number of women. I think sometimes that so I think there's that estrogen drop off which plays into this, because we just can't be bothered. Like these relationships that we felt like they served us at the time, and maybe they served a part of us, and we maintain them, and we do it. Like, I think so many women do these things grudgingly because they feel like they should, right? Because what are people going to say about us if we don't have a big friendship group? It's just like year 12 all over again. Like, who's going to be, who's going to be at prom together or formal or whatever? Like, it's ick. It's really, it really is. But also I think that if women are doing their stuff and they're getting to know themselves, like if we're talking about that IFS lens, if we start to really identify who our self is, and we're choosing, and we're able to deal with our attachment wound, and we're able to recognize our own authentic representation of self, suddenly how much of these relationships are surplus to requirements because they were
so many.
They were connected because of a manager, or they were connected because of a firefighter, or they were connected to kind of like mask all of it, right? Like, and I think that it's like the perfect storm. We have that hormonal effect, we have that just exhaustion and fatigue that comes with all of that, and we have this awareness of self that goes, I'm okay with 5 really good friends that I can rely on, and they may not even be friends with each other, and that's actually awesome. I'm actually time poor and energy poor. I can't deal with big groups like that's definitely a thing that I've noticed. In the last few years cannot deal with parties and things. I just can't. Give me a good meaty conversation with one person like this.
Yes,
I'm energized for the day. Like, me too. My poor clients for this afternoon, they are just going to be like hammered because they're going to get like top-notch Thea today, right? Like, they're going to get me like fired up. If I was going to have to go and mingle in a thing this morning, like some business,
like networking,
I can't. Gross. I can't even deal with the word. It's one thing in academia, you've got to be really good at it, and I'm just so not. Anyway, it's a whole other story. We've just got to. I think we get to this point where we have to make choices. We have to make choices that serve us. And yes, when we had little people, if we had little people, having the village and creating the village because we didn't have the village around us, we bring them together. Well, once our people are bigger and we don't, like, that village is surplus to requirements, and we're all knackered, and and I think, I hate to mention the C word, but COVID, I think, really has played into this. I think that it created, certainly my own personal experience, it created an opportunity to go, I don't need to do this anymore. In fact, picking it all back up again is just a really dumb idea. Like, my perimenopausal thing hit like within that time, and I got to hermit, and I actually was like, kind of like this. I got to work, I got to see my clients, I got to, I still
got that interaction.
Got what I like. That was great. That kept me going all the way through those 2 years in Victoria. But all the other stuff, like, not necessary. And I think I try to give permission to women that is whatever they need it to be. Because for some women, it's not. They still want that whole,
I do not.
The big gathering, and like they sound like hens if they're in a cafe, they sound like clucking hens. It's just like, and I walk in and I'm like, oh, these are not my peoples.
I'll be the person at the next table, but I'm so noise sensitive. Like, I really am finding, like, I'm just sensitive to so many more things. I'll have my little loop earplugs in, so I actually can't hear the clucking of the hens, and I'm quite happy in my little bubble. But I have definitely had moments where I've felt lately like, have I gone too far? Have I gone too much into hermit mode? But because I worked all through COVID, because I was essential, like I was in aged care, so I was an essential worker. So I didn't get any of that kind of disconnection. But I just will not do things that I feel like I have to anymore. And so that just means mostly. I mean,
Yeah.
my own little happy place in this room,
Yeah.
working away, designing things and perfectly happy, having these conversations which fulfill that, you know, curiosity and learn a part of me that, you know, likes to be continually kind of challenged and all of those things. But I have no desire to be.
And I think that that's a personal thing, like at the point at which it becomes detrimental. I know, so one of the, like in the back of my mind is a lot of the research around loneliness.
Yes.
And we know that that's actually, like, having people around us and having strong connections and friendships is really buffering for our, like, I'm talking about all aspects of our health. So when I use the word health, I mean a whole person health.
Yes.
But I'm also thinking very specifically around protective around things like dementia and I'm aware that I come from a dynamic where my parents they emigrated as well. So when they returned to the UK, they didn't have their big friendship group that they used to have when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So I grew up in a space that we didn't have lots of family gatherings that were family friends and that kind of thing. So I'm aware that that's part of my pattern, but it probably means that I just, if I wanted it, I think I would go get it. So I think it's, I mean, what I'm trying to say is essentially it's individual. And as long as it doesn't tip into the place of, I am feeling isolated and alone. Yeah. That's different to, actually I had all of this and it was a lot of surplus to requirement stuff and it wasn't serving me. Yeah. There's a guy, and I've been racking my brains trying to remember his name. He's an English journalist that wrote for The Observer and then has written a couple of books. I will remember his name, but he talks about time as being our finite resource. So he used to write about productivity and efficiency, and had tried all the hacks, right? Like that was his whole thing. His name is on the tip of my head. It's not Johan Hari. It's another guy, and I've got his book somewhere.
He's been on the Imperfect. Yeah,
he really has. And it's something that we'll find it.
It'll come.
Yeah. But this idea that, you know, ultimately there are going to be far more things that we want to do with our time than we will ever have time to do. We need to be really all over saying no to the things that we don't want to do. That should be easy. I mean, I know that we find that difficult because we're still all like, yes, I'll do that thing. And then we resent it and we go anyway. Yeah. But also recognizing that every time we are making a choice to do a thing. So me choosing to do a PhD, right? I've wanted to do it for 20 years. I've wanted to do this specific PhD for 7 years, right? Like saying yes to that meant saying no to a whole bunch of things. Yeah. And I keep reminding my partner when he's like, we never do anything. And I'm like, yep, because I said no to that when I said yes to this. And also, you know, the fury part of me, the perimenopausal, I sacrificed everything in order to do the things that I have
therefore
done.
I get me. Yes.
So I'm having this now. Don't even try and test me.
I will bite you.
yeah, literally. No, not literally. Not literally. But we need to be really clear and back ourselves, right?
Yes.
Be very mindful. And so, if we're thinking about what the purpose is of I guess therapy broadly is about bringing someone back in the present self as much as possible, right? And it's being safe to be present, right? And we can only make those informed, wise, sensible choices considering from that space. Yeah.
I think as you're talking, actually, a couple of things are coming to my mind. My dad was a very, very hermit-like creature, very hermit-like. And I see a lot of I'm very, self-contained. I don't really need too much out of myself. And that's not that hyper independence. It's just like I'm happy in my own space. I like to tootle around. But thank you for the reminder that it is also something that I've seen a parent do where there's no strong connections outside, because I know that all of the happiness studies, what's the number one driver of happiness is connection. So so thank you for the reminder. I am wondering, when you're talking about, I want to come back to your PhD, because there's a part of me, I have always absolutely loved boxing, and particularly when I've been going through really trying times in my life where there's a lot of that stuff coming to the surface, where I feel like I've got lots of big emotion And earlier on, back looking at my 20 hyper independent, don't fucking touch me, I can do everything myself. Rah, rah, rah. I look back at my beautiful husband, and we've known each other since I was 21, and I just think, far out, man, he's been a patient person. But I look back at her, and again and again in my life, when things were getting stressful, I would turn to that really, like, I want to just hit something, because if I didn't have that channel, I found that I would get disproportionately angry. And now I understand that I had lots of anger and resentment under the surface, and then the present time just triggers that way back then.
All of the things.
Blah. Yeah. So what are you finding with the cardio?
Yeah, with the boxing. So it's early. So we're early in the process. So we haven't recruited people for the trial yet. But the thinking and the research that exists so far in the literature is that, yes, anger is a part of is a potential pathway. Like, and there's this whole thing around boxing being a male dominated thing. It's not but it's historically not been acceptable for women to do it, in the same way as it's not acceptable for women to be angry. And I think that kind of rage that comes out, that is more obvious / present potentially in our perimenopausal times, I think that it's calling us to anger is essentially the same pathway of our nervous system as anxiety. It's an upregulation of our nervous system, except that for some people, anxiety might look like, I need to that away, like I need to lie on a mat or meditate or do a thing.
Yes.
And there's spaces and places, absolutely, there's a time and a place. But for me, anger is asking for movement. It's asking for it's saying, do something with me. And if we can, as oh my goodness, names today, a nightmare. Two sisters that wrote a book about stress and the bodily responses to stress, completing the stress cycle. Amazing sisters. But this idea of completing the stress cycle, if we can allow it to be moved out of our body,
yes,
it's great. And I had a curiosity about this from back in 2015. I'm getting my years right. My second husband died in an ocean swim, and it's complicated whole backstory thing, but very sudden and messy and traumatic and all the things. And when I got to a place where I could be left alone and not cry permanently, I took myself, my mum and dad came over from the UK, and they looked after the kids, and I went to a retreat up in Queensland called Gwingana. And I did, it was just amazing. It was the best money that I ever spent, that I didn't have, but I spent it anyway kind of time. And I went by myself, and I did 3 days, 3 nights there, 4 days. And one of the things that I found so difficult is that they kind of drip feed the itinerary to you. And so you go to bed knowing that the first thing that's on offer is Tai Chi as the sun rises. And then you can join them for an apple cider vinegar shot. And then they will just let you know what the next 3 options are. And every time, because again, I have a plan apart. I was going to say, the control freak in me is already. Totally. I don't know what of those 3 things, because they would give you like a low energy one, a high energy one, and then a like random one. At each juncture, which was like 3 times a day. And I was like, well, I need to know what the other options are for the rest of the day to know what to choose for now. And they're like, that's not really the purpose of this, Thea. The purpose is that you tune into what your body wants you to do right now. And I'm like, I don't really know, because I'm not in my body, because I am like all over the place. They're like, well, what do you feel like? Of these 3 things, what do you feel like? And every single time I kept choosing the high energy thing. And I said to one of them, I'm like, I'm freaking out, because I came here because I'm worried about my cortisol levels. I've not been eating properly. I've slept on the couch for 6 months. I'm a wreck, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, sometimes you just need to move that. Like, if that's what your body is telling you, just trust it and do the thing. And so that was my first like lived experience of, actually, this feels good. I hate spin classes. right? Like I'd done a couple, I was down with the idea that it should be a good thing for me. So not a good thing. But when I had that as an option with, I don't even know what the low energy one was. And the other thing was like some weird danccy thing. And I'm like, nah, can't do that. Like that would just be like a whole triggering experience because I've got 2 left feet. Oh, well, spin it is. And I was like, this is not me. Like, but I just needed to move it. So it's about, there's great research, Bessel van der Kolk's work around trauma-informed yoga. There's some great trauma research around supporting women with that more mind-body approaches. What we don't have is a lot of research around moderate vigorous physical activity forms for this cohort.
It makes so much sense to me. Like if I think back to what is emotion, it's just it's a messenger. And to me, what I've done my entire life, because that anger has felt dangerous, is push it down, push it down, push it down, push it down. And the more that I've allowed it to be what it is and actually teach myself that it's safe to be in a body that's feeling anger, but also to channel it, that has felt immensely powerful and has made me less scared to be in my body. Because what I didn't realize is all those years that I spent living from my neck up in my safety zone, in my control everything, the seeking safety by planning and managing everything, like the, beehive lady. What I didn't realize is that if I couldn't be in my body, I also couldn't be connected to myself with a capital S. Yeah. And
because you're not present.
Not present at all.
Because we have to be in our body. Our body is that exists right now. The sensations that we feel right now is the only place where we are here today. Like so often I will say in session, and what are you feeling in your body right this second when you tell me about that? Because that brings them right back here. You can't be anywhere else. Right? We can remember what it was like to feel sick around this thing, or we can remember that emotion, right? But what is happening right now brings you back into your in the present self. I'm here. And one of the things that boxing is brilliant at is that if you're going to do a drill, right, and we're not talking in a ring, that's not the purpose of this kind of research. It's cardio boxing to try and make it as physical activity based as possible, as accessible as possible. You have to be present to land those drills properly. And most people that love boxing love the sound of nailing the punches.
Nailing the perfect landing when a trainer knows.
Left. Like it's great, right? So like in the bang, bang. Like you just, if you can get that right.
Especially if you get one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, everybody's earballs.
Bang. We have to be here to do that. So there's something, so I'm really fascinated around the pathways and what's if anybody I should there'll be
can't wait to hear
I'll be
more.
Recruiting people. I've got qualitative studies coming up first of all that will be around getting victim survivors experiences. So I want not their experiences of their abuse, because that's potentially triggering and that's not helpful, but about if we were going to create this kind of a program, what do they think about it? What would they want to be included? What are some of the considerations that would make it feel safer? So, for example, having a female instructor or having a therapeutic support person in the space, just in case it was something that came up and they wanted to talk it through. So we want it to be co-designed and collaborative as much as possible, so that victim survivor voices are centered and heard. And they're part of the creation of the intervention. So whilst I have this idea of what this intervention looks like, I want women's input. So I will need people at that stage, and then I would love people to obviously sign up and do this thing, which will be so exciting.
Fascinating. And thank you for, I know this is just my personal thank you, but thank you for your innate understanding of the safety of the type of work that you do versus what we've grown. And we haven't even gotten to that. Actually, we're going to have to reconnect because one of the things that we talked about was the disproportionate amount of diagnosis of mental health issues in women. So we'll do that in another episode. But thank you for keeping, what women really need at the forefront of your work rather than following the plug and play medical model, which I completely agree, is not particularly helpful and certainly not empowering.
Not
I cannot
empowering,
wait
and
to hear what the research shows.
Me too. I'm feel a bit sick and excited all at the same time.
Well, I know that you will absolutely nail it tomorrow. You have been a delight to reconnect with. I know that this rich conversation will have so many aha moments for our audience, and I would love to have you back because we've got a whole sheet of topics that we didn't even talk about. And anyway, thank you so much, Thea. Have a beautiful World Menopause Day.
And you too. Happy World Menopause Day.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening into today's episode. If you love the show, as I hope you do, please take the time to subscribe on your favourite pod listening platform and rate and review. And for bonus points, if you have a friend or someone who popped to mind as you were listening to this episode, why not hit the share link wherever you're listening and send them a little love bomb. Like, listen to this. Did you know this is normal? I really, really, really would love to get these beautiful stories into the hearts and ears and minds of so many more midlife mavens. And your help spreading the love is truly, truly appreciated. Thank you so much. I'm Kylie Patchett, your host, and have a spectacular day.